Chapter 3. The first things I placed in my storage unit were certified copies of all Warren's and my documents. Then, using Tom's credit card, I began shopping like crazy. Bags, jewelry, clothing, designer jackets, designer boots. I went on major shopping sprees and chose ridiculously expensive stuff. Unlike most husbands, Tom didn't get upset at my spending. He was actually happy. "Glad to see you getting out of your slump," he said. "It's about time you made yourself presentable." Yeah, that's what I was doing, making myself presentable for my husband. After showing Tom all my purchases, which he demanded to see, I would hang them up in my massive closet and quietly save all the wrappings from the items I purchased. In my storage locker, I saved every single wrapper, box, receipt, tag, manual, anything pertaining to the purchase. After I left Tom, I would have little money, so I planned to sell the unused items on eBay and use the money to live on. Because of the original wrapping and boxes, all items would be brand new, almost brand new. In my storage locker, I also had a desk, a chair, and a laptop. Every second day, I would sit at the laptop and update my inventory on an Excel spreadsheet. It was something I looked forward to. It gave me such a thrill to see how much stuff I had accumulated. Over a couple of months, I had amassed about 20 grand worth of bags, jackets, shoes, dresses, makeup, toys, and soft furnishings, all designer. Okay, so I would probably get half of what they were valued at. But that would have to do. Until Warren was old enough for me to hold on a full-time job, that is. I toyed with the idea of just cashing up and fleeing to South Africa with my son. I was so lonely and yearning for my family and for all that was familiar. Going back home was just a beautiful dream. But I knew Tom. If I left the country with Warren, he would, without hesitation, have me arrested. He would do it in a heartbeat. So, I would have to live in Sydney, stay trapped there, and find a way to survive, and dream about South Africa. Each time I took a step toward my freedom, I became more energized, more determined, and that pillow, it moved further and further from my face. Since I was scared and desperately in need of support, I did toy with the idea of confiding in some of our friends. But Tom had me associating with people he deemed worthy of our friendship, people I found shallow and pretentious, and who made me feel small and inadequate. So, in essence, I had no real friends, just shopping buddies. However, whenever one of my pretentious friends received expensive jewelry, I made a point of telling Tom how wonderful her jewelry was and how much I admired it. Lo and behold, my jealous and vain husband/abuser would better that. A bigger diamond, thicker gold chain, and a more expensive piece of jewelry would soon be in my hands. I would smile graciously as I accepted the present from Tom, then store the present away, stash the box, the wrapping, the price tag, all in my precious storage facility. To me, it wasn't just a storage facility. No, it was a shrine of freedom. My freedom. After I visited my locker and worked on my inventory, my spirits always soared. Once, I was driving home from my storage unit when Nicki Minaj's Freedom played on the radio. I pumped up the volume and listened to the chorus. When will I sing those words? When will I feel completely free? One day I will be free, I vowed. I will fly like a bird. I will soar with my baby on my back. Until that day, I would take comfort in the fact that I was on my way to freedom. It was time to amp up things. I announced that I was going to spring clean, redecorate. I began to regularly declutter, cleared out all my cupboards and warrens, donated all my old stuff to charity, made a huge noise about it for Tom's benefit, updated and upgraded stuff around my entire house to Tom's delight. He loved it, especially since I had enlisted his help in choosing everything new. You're the one with style and flair, Tom. Darn right about that. But I wasn't donating to charity. No, all my old stuff was carted off to my storage locker. That's right. All the TVs, the CD players, bedside lamps, kitchen utensils, furniture, soft furnishings that Tom thought I'd given away. They were all in my storage unit, ready for my new home. My nest was growing, and freedom was within striking distance. Now, Tom did not allow me to go on birth control. Yes, the operative word is allow. Tom controlled my body too. But, God forbid I get pregnant while I was trying to escape his clutches. So quietly, I took a contraceptive injection. But when I experienced an adverse reaction to the injection, I was forced to switch back to the pill, which I then hid in my freezer next to my illicit credit card, among the frozen Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. My freezer was coming in pretty handy. Who knew frozen vegetables could multitask? I had been taking so many steps toward my freedom, taking so many chances, that at times I felt overwhelmed by everything. I would grow so fearful that I experienced full-blown panic attacks. What if Tom found out? What if he discovered my plans to leave him? What if he discovered my credit card, my post office box, my storage unit? Several times I ran to the bathroom and threw up from fear. I knew that for some reason, and God only knows why, Tom did not want to lose me. He couldn't live without me for long. Never once did I kid myself that it was because he loved me too much. No. Tom only loved himself. I believe it was the control he needed. Without that control, he floundered. I had taught him how to treat me in the very beginning. Badly, that is, and without regard or respect. I quickly learned that I was unable to change things. I was in too deep, way too deep. Tom was a pretty guarded and private individual, so I didn't know much about his childhood. But I knew that he had severed all ties with his family a long time ago. It became obvious very quickly that he was extremely jealous of the close relationship I had with my mom and my 3 siblings. He was especially jealous of my relationship with my darling brother Richie. Like most abusers, Tom had isolated me from my family, lured me away from them, then hauled me far away to an island down under called Australia and kept me locked in isolation. There, he could exercise full control over me. And he did. Sounds sick, doesn't it? But it happens every day. But all that was going to change. Tom would just have to learn to live without me. Learn that he could no longer control me, abuse our beautiful boy. Then, disaster. My family doctor smiled at me and said, "Congratulations, Irina, you're going to have a baby." What do you... "You're pregnant. Congratulations." I can't be. No, I can't be. No. Dr. Jackson's smile vanished. No. My doctor stared slack-jawed as I broke down and wept in his office, sobbed. "Irina, what on earth is going on? This is good news, Irina." Dr. Jackson's voice was so gentle that I felt like blurting, "Dr. Jackson, how can I possibly bring another child into this marriage when I live with a tyrant who terrorizes our 3-year-old? Warren is not allowed to be a child. He is not allowed to leave toys around. He is not allowed to have tantrums. He is not allowed to run around barefoot. He's not allowed to even sing out loud. He's constantly bullied and mocked by his father, Dr. Jackson. He's forced to grow up quickly, skip milestones, or face his father's cruel wrath, Dr. Jackson. I can't have this baby, doctor. Make it go away. Please, 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 I beg you, make it go away." That's what I really wanted to say. But Dr. Jackson, he played squash with Tom every Friday, so I dared not speak to him about it. "Talk to me, Irina," Dr. Jackson urged. Hormones," I eventually muttered and hurriedly left his office. I may have wallowed in resentment toward this baby, this noose, but Tom, he was ecstatic. He threw a lavish party where he showered me with jewelry and flashy gifts. This time, I accepted the jewelry with a smile. When I look back, I believe Tom liked the idea of having more kids because 1, they displayed his virility, and 2, they wear nooses around my neck. The more kids we had, the more I needed him and his financial help, the more I would depend on him. Tom was right. He had calculated right. Calculating Tom. That was my husband. My second pregnancy was so difficult, I couldn't even think about making any changes in my life. Any major changes. Not only did I have several miscarriage scares, but I had to be admitted to the hospital at various stages of my pregnancy. No way could I leave Tom. No way could I give Warren the life I'd promised him. I could do nothing. The noose tightened around my neck. The pillow pushed further into my face. And Tom, he continued his tyrannical reign over Warren and me. I blamed the baby. It had brought the pillow closer to my face. It had brought the pillow closer to Warren's face. It. Then, on a cold July morning, a beautiful bouncy angel with lips like rosebuds and skin like satin was placed in my arms. As I held my heart in my arms for the second time in my life, all resentment toward my baby flew out the window. I sobbed as I silently begged for her forgiveness. "I didn't know you," I pleaded. "Mommy is so sorry." She was so soft and delicate that I did not even want Tom to carry her. Not that he really wanted to. "We shall call her Sasha," he announced. I had no say in the naming of either one of my kids whatsoever. But it didn't matter, mainly because I guess I had no choice, no voice. Tom didn't hurt Sasha, but he grew increasingly impatient and mean toward Warren for no reason, meaner than before. When I intervened, he'd get so furious he'd accuse me of taking Warren's side, and then he'd terrorize Warren even further. It was flabbergasting to see that Tom didn't see Warren as his son. He saw him as his competition, as another man. So, my plans, which were to leave Tom, may have been on hold because of Sasha's unexpected arrival, but they were not abandoned. I was going to leave Tom, this time with 2 children, with 2 of my babies on my back as I soared up into the skies. I was still determined to. One night, instead of reading a bedtime story to Warren, who had been crying earlier on because of his father, I whispered, "Warren, soon you, me and Sasha, we're going to leave this house and we're going to live away from Daddy." Despite my angry voice, his eyes lit up. "Really, Mom?" I nodded and put my finger to my lips. "Our little secret, okay? I'm making plans to leave this house, Warren, and I need you to know that, okay?" He took my finger from my lips and tapped it to his. "Good boy, Warren, good boy. You promise, Mom?" "I promise, honey, and I'm even going to allow you a dog, a teeny tiny one. Not right away, but soon after we settle down." His eyes filled with delight. "We're gonna live without mean old Daddy?" I nodded. "So when Daddy is mean, Warren, just remember that soon we are going to say goodbye to him and live just by ourselves, okay?" "Then can I run around the house and play hide and seek in it?" "Absolutely." Can I sing out loud?" "Absolutely." Can I eat in the TV room?" "Absolutely, Warren." Can I walk around without my shoes, Mom?" "Absolutely, Warren." He threw his little arms around me and hugged me hard, and my heart, it ached for my son who wanted to kick off his shoes when he was inside the house, who wanted to sing out loud. It was baffling. Most families expect you to kick off your shoes once you're inside the house. Not Tom. For some reason, he needed Warren to be fully dressed all the time, and that included shoes. Baffling. After that, every night I would read Warren a quick bedtime story, then talk about our life without Tom, whisper about it. "Will I be able to leave my toys lying around?" "While you're playing, yes." "Awesome, Mom, awesome." "Would I be able to?" It would be question after question after question, and he would eventually fall asleep with a smile on his face. When Tom wasn't around, Warren and I packed suitcases for him, for Sasha and myself, and drove them over to the storage locker. By then, I had most of what I would need for our new life. The only thing I couldn't pack in advance was my jewelry, because taking my jewelry out of the safe in advance might tip off Tom. I was worried about that, as I needed my jewelry to survive. Despite all my concerns, despite my unexpected pregnancy, our freedom was close, and I became really excited. Because of that, I was able to tolerate Tom's continued abuse. Having 2 kids drained me of energy, and I just wasn't able to look the part Tom wanted. I had not lost the baby weight, and because I was sleep deprived, I didn't have the energy to exercise and be glamorous. I would awake 2-3 times a night for Sasha, then be up at 6 a.m. to give Tom his wheatgrass and his quinoa, then get Warren ready for preschool and drive him to it. The day with baby Sasha was a blur, and before I knew it, it was time to pick up Warren again. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. I was constantly exhausted. Well, that didn't sit well in Tom's perfect world. To him, my exhaustion and failure to look less than perfect was simply an excuse. Look at Victoria Beckham. She's lost the weight just like that. She has 4 children. Amazing figure. 4 children. How many children have you? He'd cup his hand to his ear. Sorry, didn't hear you. What did you say? Yes, 2 children. Not 3, not 4, not just 2 children. And let's not forget that you don't have a fashion empire to run. He didn't hesitate to criticize my appearance at every opportunity. Am I supposed to introduce you as my wife while you wear that? What's with those granny shoes? You wearing sweatpants again? Elizabeth Hurley. She lost the baby weight within weeks with that watercress soup or whatever. I'll Google the recipe for you if you like. Berated, belittled, and beaten. I could no longer bear it. Sasha was 3 months old. Warren was 4 years old. It was time to leave the toxic environment, I decided. The question was, how? How do I do it? Do I just walk out and leave Tom a note? Do I talk to him first, say goodbye, then leave? I wasn't sure. I suddenly wasn't sure about anything. In fact, the more I thought about leaving Tom, the more a sort of paralysis overcame me. I had lost my nerve, I believed. So, after all that planning and plotting and fraud in the name of freedom for me and my 2 babies, I found myself doing nothing. I found myself just staying with Tom and waiting for... I don't know what I was waiting for. I was just waiting. What an anticlimax, right? Dumb, uneducated bitch. Useless thing. That was me. The thing about abusive partners, they give you plenty opportunity to leave them. Plenty. And Tom, he was no exception. One Saturday morning, I went shopping with just Sasha. Unable to handle a roving toddler, a baby, and a shopping trolley, I decided to leave Warren with Tom. Reluctantly at that. However, I hurried with my shopping and rushed back to Warren before Tom could do damage to Warren. When I arrived home, I found Warren seated on a chair facing the wall, his chin buried in his chest, his body jerking with silent sobs. At the sight of my son, traumatized, alone, without me, I grew hysterical. Warren, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Warren, why are you sitting here? Warren, what's going on? With eyes filled with terror, my 4-year-old son put a shaky finger to his lips and said, "Must not sing, Mum, must be quiet." Furious, I jerked his finger away from his lips, then hugged him. "Get away from him!" Tom screamed from the entrance of the room. "He's 4, Tom!" I yelled. "You can't do this to him!" I had never yelled at Tom before, never ever raised my voice at him. So for a few moments, Tom looked at me with eyes wide open. After he recovered from his shock of me, a dumb, uneducated bitch, a useless thing, daring to raise my voice at him, he grabbed me by the hair and pulled me away from Warren. At the sight of Tom dragging me, Warren began to scream hysterically. Then Sasha began to scream. "You don't want to listen to me? You can go!" Tom said as he dragged me toward the front door. Okay, I said, not wanting to be separated from my children. Imagine what he would have done to Warren had I left at that moment. "You are right, Warren, he needs discipline. You are right. I did not look at my son's eyes when I said those words. Tom's grip on my hair slowly loosened. "I'm sorry, okay? Just let me cool off a bit and I'll be fine. I'm sorry, Tom, I'm sorry." "Do not go to the boy," Tom warned as he released my hair. "He's not that boy," I wanted to scream. "He's our goddamn son." I didn't. I just nodded and moved to unpack the stuff I had bought. Warren did not need discipline. Yet, I had said that to Tom. How could I look at my son in the eye again? After my words of betrayal? I couldn't. I didn't. A couple of minutes later, I approached Tom. I just need to buy a gift for Thea's party tonight. I completely forgot about it when I went shopping. I'll just nip into the shops, okay? Can you handle Sasha and Warren for about half an hour? Please, I know what I want already. After hesitating, he reluctantly nodded. I raced straight to the banks and, using both of Tom's credit cards, withdrew $5,000 from each account. The day had come. I was leaving Tom. Withdrawing cash from Tom's bank account was a point of no return. Slipping the 10 grand in my bra, I dialed the police. Quickly I explained that I was leaving my husband and that I needed help. I just need the police to be present so that there's no drama. Please, can you come? They agreed. Relief flooded me. Tom would not be able to hurt me if the police were there. Why didn't I tell the police that Tom had terrorized my son? That he had dragged me across the room by my hair? I really don't know. But I believe it was because I was too scared to further enrage Tom. I guess I just wanted to seize the opportunity my abuser had presented me and leave for good. With my heart thudding in my chest, I drove towards my home and lingered at the end of the street, tapping my fingernails on the steering wheel as I waited for the police. I'm leaving Tom, I thought. Oh my God, I'm leaving Tom. I was excited. I was terrified too. When I finally saw the police car approach, I signaled feverishly for them to follow me home. At the sight of the police behind me, Tom's jaw dropped. Tom, I'm taking the children and I'm leaving you now. My voice, it didn't sound like mine. Tom's eyes moved to the police, to me, to the police, and back at me. Really? Yes, Tom, yes, because I don't like the way you treat me, and I don't like the way you treat Warren, Tom. I can't take it anymore. For a few moments, Tom just stared at me, his eyes turning granite, his lips thinning. Fear made me want to throw up. Despite his tangible anger, Tom threw out his hands and shrugged. If that's what you want, then... He followed his words with a bit of an affable smile. Playing it cool for the police. I knew his modus operandi, but I was too wired to care. I was finally leaving Tom, and he could do nothing to stop me. A surreal moment, totally surreal. I left my kids with a female officer, then rushed around, hastily gathering stuff. Luckily, most of it was already packed and hidden away, but I wanted to take as much as I could. My jewelry. I needed my jewelry to survive. The question was, would Tom stop me from taking it? I expected him to. After all, it was in his safe, which he had always discouraged me from handling. If he did stop me from taking it, I would be in deep trouble. Keep him downstairs, I whispered to the police, then raced upstairs to the safe. I worked fast, grabbing my jewelry and stuffing it in my pockets. I believe that Tom was so shell-shocked by my move that he didn't think of stopping me from touching the safe. He just admired in surprise. That, or he was too busy thinking about stopping my credit cards, distracted by that thought. But Tom, being Tom, couldn't stay silent for long. He had to have the last word. So when the police backs were turned, he leaned in and mouthed, I will get you for this." I didn't answer. I continued packing. "Hear me, Irina. I'm going to hurt you in such a way you will never recover from it. You will never be the same. Never." His words, the venom in his voice, it caused a cold shiver to run through me, causing me to pause with my packing. But I did not look at him. I was too scared to. I did feel the need to say something. "What do you want to do, Tom? Kill me?" was all I could manage. "Nope. Want you to live. Feel every day. Hurt every day. Wait and see. Just wait." That chill inside of me, it forced me to turn and look at him. His eyes, they had red specks in them. Something I had never seen before. Red, like the devil's. I had to have imagined that because, of course, his eyes couldn't be red. He's probably going to try and maim me, I thought. Unhinged by his malevolent threats, I decided to leave. Right away, without taking anything else. The police were kind enough to help me with my bags. I took Sasha from one of the cops, then reached for Warren's hands. To my utter surprise, Warren pulled his hand away from mine. "Warren, let's go, honey." I thrust my hand at him again. He didn't take it. Instead, he turned and looked at Tom. "Warren," I cried. "Warren, let's go, honey." Warren stood with both arms locked to his side, his body rigid. "You don't have to go, Warren," Tom said, seizing the opportunity that presented. "Yes, you do," I cried. "Come, Warren, you have to go with me." The police watched, appearing surprised by Warren's refusal to leave with me, his mother. Tom swung around to look at the police. "My son, he clearly does not want to go with her. You can't make him, right?" I was overcome with sheer panic. There was no way I would leave my house without my son. No. His abuse less than an hour ago was my turning point. So why would I leave without him? I couldn't. I wouldn't. I knew that for a fact. "Warren, come to Daddy," Tom said, his eyes bright with excitement, his voice unable to conceal the thrill he felt at that pivotal moment. Warren stood rooted to the spot. Weeks ago, when it was time for me to leave Tom, I too froze. Remember? Tom turned to the police and in a breathless voice said, "If he doesn't want to go, you can't force him to leave, right?" None of the police answered, thankfully. "Warren, honey," I pleaded, my voice turning watery, my outstretched hand now shaking. Warren didn't respond. Then, a cop walked over to Warren and dropped to his haunches. "Mama, Dad, son, who do you want to be with?" I felt all my energy diffusing out of me. "Please say Mom, please say Mom, please say Mom." To my horror, Warren turned his neck slowly to look at Tom. Tom gave a giant nod, then shot me a smug look. I squeezed my eyes shut. This can't be happening. Please, this can't be happening. God, please, this can't be happening. My body started to fold with defeat, and I could do little to stop it. Then I heard a small voice saying, "Wanna go with my mom?" I felt Warren's little hand grab hold of my outstretched hand. "I want to go with my mom." My eyes flew open to look at my boy. Yes! I don't know how Tom reacted to Warren's decision because I did not look at him. I was too busy racing to the front door with both my babies. "I want her keys!" Damn. I was hoping to hold on to my house keys so that maybe, just maybe, I could when Tom wasn't around, slip into the house and take some more of my things. But I had Warren and I had Sasha and I had the cops at my side. That was enough for me. Without arguing, I gave Tom my set of house keys. Under the watchful eye of the police, I bundled my kids into my car. With them following me, I headed over to a women's shelter I had contacted a few months ago. This was it. I had left Tom. Finally, the day had come. I had left Tom. Chapter 4. I had actually done it. I had left my abusive husband, escaped. Wow, I couldn't believe it. Now, I had read somewhere that to document abuse, it helps to spend a night in a women's shelter. It sort of strengthened her case or claim of abuse later on. I didn't know if that was true, but I did it anyway. Who knows, one day I just might have to show the courts, prove to them that I really was an abused woman. Anyway, hotel rooms in the area were pretty expensive and I didn't have money to burn. I was now a single parent with 2 children, so every cent would count. High on adrenaline, I drove on with the police following me. At a certain point when it was deemed safe, the police went their way and I was left on my own. On my own. That was a scary thought. As I drove, I looked for Tom in my rearview mirror. My left mirror, my right mirror. I was that scared. I expected Tom to chase after me, after us, after the vehicle that I was driving, because he was the rightful owner of it. I didn't see him anywhere. Still, when I approached traffic lights, I was so scared, I didn't stop. I just slowed down, kept vigilant, looking around me for Tom, windows tightly shut, hand over the horn, foot hovering over the accelerator, ready to step on it and speed off to safety if necessary. Tom was nowhere in sight. My added measure? I drove around in circles for a few minutes just to double check that no one was following me. Luckily, no one followed me. Okay. Close to the women's shelter, I felt safe enough to stop at a red traffic light. I am free of Tom, I thought. Wow, finally, wow. I turned to look back at my son. He hadn't uttered a word since we left home. Warren, this is it. We've left Daddy. From now on, it's you, me, and Sasha. Warren didn't answer. He just looked ahead. I didn't worry too much about my 4-year-old's crippling fear. A few weeks ago, when it was time for me to leave Tom, I too suffered bouts of crippling fear. Warren needed time to heal from the abuse. He needed time to trust me. He needed abject love and understanding, and I was going to give it all to him in heaps. I was determined to. The traffic light changed to green. We're going on a little holiday first, I rambled, looking ahead at the road. Then on Monday, we're going to find an apartment and we're going to live happily ever after, Mum? My neck jerked to look at my son in the rearview mirror. He was smiling. My son was finally smiling. Tears of absolute relief filled my eyes. Exactly, my baby, exactly. At the next traffic light, I leaned back and put out my palm. Hit me, baby. With broad grins, we high-fived each other. I looked at my other baby. Sasha, sweeties, we are free. Warren looked at Sasha and echoed, Sasha, sweeties, we are free of mean old Tom. Mean old Tombolina. I laughed at the name he awarded his father. Sasha rewarded us both with melodic gurgles. Our song, Warren. Gotta get our song. I searched for Nicki Minaj's Freedom Song on my CD stacker. When it came on, I cranked up the volume. Sing with me, Warren. He sang along. Louder, Warren. He sang louder. Louder, Warren. Shout it out, baby. Warren did. He and I, we sang at the top of our lungs. It felt good. It felt great. I wound down the window and allowed the wind to blow out my hair. When you allow the wind to blow out your tamed hairdo, you are truly free, believe me. Life already felt good. I mean, I was free, Warren was free, Sasha was free. How could life not feel good? I was given a cubicle the size of a small bathroom for me and my kids at the shelter. I didn't mind one bit. To me, it was another step towards total freedom. The helpers at the shelter, many of whom were volunteers, they were friendly, supportive, and most helpful. I voraciously gathered a ton of information about support groups in the area and stuff like government assistance for women in my situation, all of which I plan to put to use. At night, I kept my kids close and slept soundly, to my surprise. I awoke each morning with a smile. Freedom tasted even better the next morning. The albatross from around my weary neck, it had flown, and it felt as if I was being bathed in sunbeams. That Monday morning, I dropped off Warren at his school in St. Ives, which was paid for till the end of the year. And with Sasha in a stroller, I set about finding an apartment. It was exhausting, but by 2 p.m. that afternoon, I found one with the security I needed. It was expensive, way more than I expected. With the rental bond and the first month's rent, I was down $5,000. A massive hole in my cash reserves. But security was something I just had to have because of Tom's threats. So I had no choice but to accept it. The building had swipe card entry to everything, and floor restriction too, which made me feel safer. 48 hours later, I moved into the apartment. The first night, we slept on the floor. But that was okay. Soon, we'd have all the furniture we needed. It's like camping, honey, I said to Warren. What's that? I ruffled his hair and made a mental note to take Warren camping. Tom had refused to camp. With him, everything had to be 5 stars. My apartment was really tiny. 1 bedroom, a kitchenette, not even a kitchen, a tiny lounge dining area, and a narrow balcony. But it was secure, centrally situated. And did I mention that I was free? Yes, I was free. And I was so giddy with excitement that I couldn't stop smiling. What about Daddy, Mum? He's never going to visit us here, right? Warren's tone of voice could be described as wary or hopeful. Warren, honey, this is our home. Daddy will not be visiting us here. I mean, sure, you may have to visit Daddy sometimes, but you will live here with me. And no, Daddy will not be visiting us here. You promise, Mom? Yeah, I said, stooping to remove his shoes, then flinging them over my shoulders in a comical way. Warren smiled at my antics, then, with arms outstretched, ran circles around Sasha. I needed help to get my stuff from my storage unit, so I got to work. After cancelling my email account and creating a new one, just in case Tom had my password for my old email account, I searched websites supporting abused women and made contact with them. After interrogating me to ensure that I wasn't just some abusive husband snitch, a lovely lady by the name of Fatima paid me a visit. She supplied me with names of other women in the area who were in the same situation, who could support me and I guess become friends with me. Women in the same hold-full boat that I was in. She also sent over volunteers to help move my stuff from the storage unit into my apartment. Soon, our home was beginning to look, as my son put it, heaps cool. And that bit familiar, which was helpful in easing Warren into new surroundings. I called it a fun-filled treehouse. Warren said, "You are right, Mum. It's our fun-filled treehouse." We assembled beds, packed away kitchen utensils, unpacked clothing, and although I was dropping with exhaustion, I found myself humming. Tom cancelled all my credit cards after I left him. I was expecting that, and that's where my plan B came in. My items in my storage unit. The 10 grand that I carried around in my bra, which was now reduced to 5 grand. The secret credit card that would allow me to withdraw cash, my jewelry, stuff like that. Tom also cancelled my phone contract. I was expecting that too. And I already had my spare iPhone with me with all my contacts backed up, even though I wouldn't be contacting any of them. So far, you could say I was ahead of Tom, and that added a layer to my newly found confidence. But I soon got bad news. I was denied government assistance. Your husband has annotated an annual income of greater than $200,000, Mrs. Buerta, the lady explained. And according to him, you have received more than half of that. I haven't, I protested, but my protest and pleas fell on deaf ears. I was denied benefits. Tom didn't have to declare anything, but he chose to in order to punish me. I was floored. I had been counting on Centrelink benefits to survive. How would I manage without them? My smile disappeared, and my confidence just plummeted. How would I manage? Who the hell did I think I was taking on an astute businessman like Tom? But I summoned my strengths and decided I would engage the services of a legal aid lawyer and fight Centrelink. I would not give up just because they said no. I had come too far to just surrender. Then, more bad news. I was denied the services of a legal aid lawyer. There again, my husband's income was far too high to qualify for legal help. A double whammy that left me hyperventilating on the sidewalk. What had I done? How would I survive? What the hell have I done to me, to my children? I'm embarrassed to say, but in my panic, I thought about returning to Tom. I mean, what good was freedom when you were going to starve to death, when you and your 2 little babies were going to starve? I actually began to practice my tail between my legs speech. I'm sorry, Tom. It was a moment of insanity. Postpartum depression. That's what it was. It made me do things I regret, Tom. I miss you so much. The children missed you, Tom. Yeah. Luckily, Fatima, seeing my distress, rushed to my rescue. and quickly wrangled me the services of a legal aid lawyer called Gina King to assist me with Centrelink. Together, we would have to prove that I had not received the kind of money they're talking about. Though it would take months, maybe even a year, I had something called hope after that. Despite the ray of hope, the setbacks that I had suffered, they took its toll on me. I became quiet as I suffered bouts of massive self-doubt. But I guess the desire to protect my babies was so strong that it overrode all my fears and propelled me along. Soon, my spirits slowly lifted again, my smile returned, and I found myself humming once again. To form a support system, I made contact with other abused women in the vicinity, referred to me by Fatima. To my surprise and delight, one of them lived in my apartment complex. Song Richardson was a sassy mail-order bride from Thailand who decided to flee her abusive 59-year-old Australian husband with a 5-year-old son named Charlie. She had been in the country for 6 years, and her English was, well, fairly good, I would say. Around 25, pretty and streetwise. Song was not embarrassed to tell everyone that she had been raised in a brothel in Thailand and had been put to work at the tender age of 4. I learned that she had been subjected to horrific abuse in the hands of her employers, and her tales, they made me cry. Like the time she got pregnant from a client and was taken for an abortion. And within 24 hours, she was put to work again. Bleeding and weak from blood loss, her employers cut her a break. She was only to give oral sex to customers. Can you believe it? Song teared up as she told me that story, while I just wept. When a 50-something Australian man, a high-ranking member of the church, asked Song to be his wife and promised her a life of absolute ease in a wonderful land called Australia, Song thought her prince had come to the rescue. She readily accepted his marriage proposal. Turns out, the God-fearing man wanted her to wear a leather mask and chains and gags. And he wanted to stuff weird things into every orifice of hers. At the same time, all the time, he was obsessed with sex. She explained that although she had been a prostitute, after she had a baby, she no longer wanted her past life, which she believed was behind her. She was wrong. It was in front of her, and worse than before. Like 100 times worse than before. When she refused his ungodly proposals, he became livid and whipped her. Yes, he whipped her. And threw her down the stairs. And threatened to have her deported. Constantly threatened to have her deported. Which meant losing her son. Oh, he like her 50 Shades of Grey, Maria. He like her a lot. It's Arena, I corrected. Song frowned at me. What kind of a name is that? Like me, Song was taking control of her life again. With the help of Centrelink, she was currently studying to become a remedial massage therapist. My situation was not that much different from Song's. I too was a mail-order bride. Except that I had no problem with my English. Tom had left South Africa for Australia years ago, returned to South Africa in search of a bride, found me, then wooed me into marrying him at the tender age of 19 and fresh out of high school. He enticed me into moving to Australia, promising that together we would pave the way for my family to immigrate to Australia using his business. Until I met Tom, I had never traveled, and I was pretty green about, well, everything. So I believed everything Tom said. But like all abusers, I understand now that he just wanted to isolate me from everyone, leaving me without support, alone, defenseless, and totally reliant on him. Tom succeeded at everything. But that was Tom. He finished what he started, always. As for the 50 Shades of Grey, or as Song puts it, 50 Shaders of Grey, mine was slightly different. Pamela and Tommy Lee, remember? As I've said, my life was only slightly different from Song's. Slightly. Even though Song constantly called me Maria, was rough and carried a switchblade in her purse, I really liked her warmth and caring nature. Her heart was filled with love and kindness. I think she pitied me and my quiet self because she became very protective toward me. I was really grateful for her friendship, for her big sister attitude. It was just what I needed, exactly what I needed. Song was exactly who I needed in my life. We soon became firm friends, and a huge bonus, our boys loved playing together. I watched her son and she watched mine, both of my children sometimes. Often she would show up at my apartment after my kids had gone to bed, clutching her textbooks and with tears in her eyes. She didn't understand so many aspects of her studies because of the language barrier, and it frustrated her to tears. I readily helped her understand, and at times I even did her assignments for her, then explained it all to her like I was talking to Warren. I used marbles and beads and even pasta shells to demonstrate, and it worked. At times like these, I was really grateful that I was fluent in English. In fact, I had so many things to be grateful for that I kept a gratitude journal and counted my blessings on a daily basis, something my mom had taught me to do. Especially when I became anxious, which was often. 2 children under the age of 4, 1 a baby, no family or close friends to support you. I challenge any woman in my position not to be bludgeoned by bouts of anxiousness and self-doubt. With regards to my financial situation, a quick calculation revealed that I could be home with Sasha for about 4 months. If I was frugal, really frugal. I tried hard not to think about leaving Sasha with the nanny. She was so little and she really needed me so much. In the meantime, even though we didn't have money, we would have fun. I made sure of that. We played music every day. Tom only allowed us to listen to classical music, and he literally banned all modern music from our home. Now, I rebelled like a teenager, and we played absolutely no classical music. Pop, country, R&B, rap, boom boom music, heavy metal, head-banging rubbish as Tom called it. We played it all. All our music had words and drums. I would put on the music and dance with Warren while Sasha cooed in her cradle. It was startling to realize that my son didn't know how to dance. So, I taught him some moves and made sure we danced every single day. We laughed, we danced, we sang every single day. Even though we had the bare necessities in life, no money for things like McDonald's Happy Meals or pink and white marshmallows, we were laughing. Sounds simple, right? To you, maybe. But it wasn't something we took for granted. We hardly laughed when we lived with Tom. Yeah, so freedom It was a beautiful thing. Made you want to dance every day. Made you want to even play doof music. My eBay business, well, it cruised along. But since a lot of my stuff were designer and pretty expensive, sales were slow. Lower than I expected. My jewelry, well, the amounts I was offered by pawnbrokers were ridiculous. So I decided to sell them online. There too, sales were disappointingly slow. So I splurged on an online accounting course. I figured that accounting was something I could manage from home. That was important to me, working from home. Over time, I secured a work-from-home position from a local print shop. Even though Laura, the owner, had wanted someone to work from her shop, I convinced her that I could be just as efficient working from home. And if she didn't like it, she didn't have to pay me. She too had a 6-month-old baby, so I guess she understood because she agreed. When she saw how and what I had done in a week, she was so thrilled she kept me on. In fact, she even paid me to watch a child some days, which added to my income. It was exciting. It was also exhausting. To cope, I woke up at 5 a.m. and worked till 7:30 a.m. uninterrupted. Then I'd work when Sasha napped, late at night when the kids were asleep. Excited by the income, I scouted around for more jobs even though I had little time left in the day for more work. Soon, I landed an accounting job at a local swim school for 3 hours a day, 2 days a week. And they allowed me to bring my baby to work. It was roses all the way. After a while, they too were happy with what I had produced and didn't even mind that I did most of the work from home. With all the work I was doing to earn money, my housework, it really suffered. And I was pretty unkempt, lived in sweatpants and pajamas even. But I didn't care. I had pressure from no one to be anything other than myself and to do my own thing. That was a gift to me. However, one morning, I caught a glimpse of a woman in the mirror. I stopped and took a closer look. The woman who stared back at me was someone I had forgotten, my pre-Tom self. My hair had grown past my shoulders. Tom had always wanted me to wear it in a bob just below my ears, and it had to be the color of deep mahogany, remember? Now, it was the lightest brown with not a hint of red in sight, and it was tousled and unstructured and, dare I say, sexy? Yeah, it was sexy. My clothing had also changed. I wore mainly jeans and casual tops when I left home, that is. Tom had wanted me dressed to impress all day, from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. Had also insisted that I wear coordinates, pumps, and full makeup. He abhorred sneakers. But these days, I was wearing only moisturizer, sometimes lip gloss, not an ounce of green concealer. Sneakers were mainly what I wore, denim jeans, casual sweaters, and guess what? My clothes weren't coordinated. Full mum mode. That's what I was in, and I loved it. I took a step toward the mirror and smiled at the woman staring back at me. You pretty little thing, you. Look at you. You've lost weight, your eyes are shining, and you're just the picture of happiness, aren't you? I then kissed the mirror and laughed out loud. I liked hearing myself laugh. I liked myself. Gina King, my legal aid lawyer, wrote Tom and informed him that she was representing me and that he could contact me through her offices. Gina went on to inform him that I was happy to arrange visitation for him and the children, that I was open to him seeing the children as often as possible, but for formality's sake, we wished to stipulate visitation days. Then we waited for his reply. What would he do? Tell me to go to hell? Demand to see his kids every day? Fight me for custody? I held my breath and waited for his response. We got none. Gina wrote to him a few weeks later, and again, we got no response. Tom was quiet, eerily quiet, and that made me nervous, really nervous. Months later, Gina received a letter from one of the largest solicitors in Sydney, who notified us that they would be representing Tom in the divorce. Oddly, Tom made no demands, not a single one. We were taken aback. Why wasn't he making demands? My biggest fear was that he would fight for custody. He didn't. So in turn, I asked for nothing, even though we had 3 residential properties, a commercial building, and a thriving business. I was happy to walk away with my freedom and just child support to feed my children. That was fair, right? Right.